if you've noticed the title, you might be thinking, what is that? What does that mean? What uh, supplements for legs? Is that clickbait? You know, you may have seen there's been a little bit more of attention paid to this issue recently, especially on YouTube. And for some, it may be clickbait, but that's not the real issue here. What is happening right now is that there's an understanding that muscle is an endocrine tissue. No, this is not an issue where there are some supplements that only impact legs. No, there's not an issue where there's some supplements that ignore the organs of our body, like the heart, the brain, and just focus on legs. And that's not really the point here. Let's go back to what I said a minute ago. And most people are going to scratch their heads when they hear this statement, but it's true. It's very true. It's not recognized, and it's very important, especially if you don't want to die an early death. And that is, muscle tissue is one of the most important endocrine tissues. Now, if you're not familiar with the term endocrine, let me dive a little bit deeper and let me acknowledge, yes, your doctor's not likely to agree with that until and unless he begins to dig a little bit deeper into what's being said. Now, most people will acknowledge, well, let's go back. And just for those who may not have picked up on it, what is and may not know what it means? Endocrine, what is endocrine? It's hormones. Endocrine is hormones, like thyroid is an endocrine organ. Our adrenal glands, they release adrenaline or epinephrine, fight or flight. That's a hormone too. Those are endocrine glands. Muscles, nobody ever thought of muscles as being endocrine. They're what moves us. They're movement oriented. They're structural. Yes, that is very true. But here's where the endocrine connection comes in. When you begin to realize that aging, what we consider, quote, normal aging that, again, is killing and disabling more people than anything else, any war, any pandemic, anything else, you begin to ask the question, okay, so how normal is most aging, and what's actually driving it? When you begin to realize that, most people realize that hormones like testosterone and female hormones, male hormones, female hormones, gender-related hormones, when most people begin to understand that those are part of aging, you hit, women hit and time in their life when they start getting problems with heat flashes, things like that. It's called menopause. That's clearly a hormone-related issue. So that's aging. But again, let's go back. There's a different part of aging that we haven't mentioned yet, and that's where the muscles come in. That part of aging is insulin resistance. Insulin is the hormone that keeps us from running into heart attack, strokes when we're younger, because our body responds well to it. If we eat something, if we get some increase in our blood glucose from our liver getting hit by fight or flight, insulin comes in and says, hey, I'm going to help you lower that blood sugar to a level that's healthy. And that sugar is going to go out of your blood where it can cause damage to the lining of your arteries into the cells where you can actually use it to do the fight or flight, for the muscles to move you, for the liver to create some of the chemical processes that it needs to create to help you live a healthy life. Now, here's where the problem with aging and hormones and muscles becoming an endocrine tissue, this is where all this gets connected. After we connect this, then we're going to talk about supplements that help muscle. So Um, you may have noticed, we've talked about this, and we talk about this a lot on the channel. One of the most important tissues for avoiding insulin resistance, arterial inflammation, heart attacks, strokes, your best internal safety valve is metabolically active, healthy muscle. Why? Because muscle that's metabolically active and healthy can actually just bypass ailing insulin receptors. Muscles that have poor capillaries, poor microvasculature, that's what we call that, the capillaries that are the interface between your blood supply and your muscle. Those are the muscles that are causing danger. So we talk about things like resistance training. We talk about things like HIIT training. We did a video that got a lot of interest a few weeks ago on creatine, because again, as we age into the endocrine problems associated with loss of muscle health, creatine's a big supplement that helps in that area. So as you begin to listen through the steps of what we're talking about, hopefully you're beginning to see why there is increasing attention paid to the supplements that help us with healthy muscle. The final comment about legs versus arms, you may say, well, whenever I talk about muscle, whenever you talk about getting muscle, you're talking about doing presses, you're talking about doing curls, you're talking about, making big guns, big arm muscles, biceps. No, yes, you do have muscles up in your upper body, but the muscles in your upper body pale in comparison to the importance of muscles in your legs. Look at the bodybuilders of the world, go back to the old movies, Pumping Iron and some of those. They talk about when a young novice comes in and starts wanting to be a bodybuilder. He works on his arms, works on his upper body, maybe neglects his legs a little bit. And the older guys, the more experienced guys say, you know what? He's not going to build mass until somebody tells him to grow your arms, you work on your legs. Now, what are they talking about there? They're talking about changing the metabolism even for young men who are wanting to create a bodybuilding physique. We're not interested in that on this channel, not so much. We're interested in a healthy longevity. And just like those bodybuilders who are looking to change their metabolism, we know that the way to change your metabolism to a healthy metabolism for longevity is to protect those muscles, especially the ones in your legs, because that's where the real muscle mass is. And because we're beginning to recognize that muscle is perhaps the most important endocrine tissue that you have to avoid the ravages of heart attack, stroke, Alzheimer's, dementia, blindness from eye disease, retinal disease, kidney disease, etc. So as usual, Jesus is sitting there saying, gosh, I wish he would just get to the point. And some others are as well. So let's get Jesus onto the show and let him get started. I am going to make the point, though. Notice Jesus's lighting today. He used to accuse me of being in the dungeon. Now look at that.
Just let me tell you something. We missed you. We missed you a lot. You were off for 2 weeks, and
It was great.
I tried to talk about this specific topic last week, and it was a disaster for those who were able to see that. But now we're back, and we want to talk about what the title says: vitamins for doing exactly what Dr. Brewer suggested. And I'm glad that you clarified that even if you take these vitamins, if you're not doing the work, it's going to be difficult. But it's a reality that most people are having deficiencies on these specific ones that we're going to be covering today. So let's start with the first one. Let me just play with this around and adjust it for the both of us. And you can take over anytime you decide to, Dr. Brewer. So vitamin D. For vitamin D, as Dr. Brewer mentioned, muscles play a role in the endocrine system with the hormones. vitamin D will bind to different receptors, help with calcium uptake, meaning getting the calcium from your gut and bloodstream and using the calcium what it should be. But it also helps building muscle and help it with the mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell and creates energy. It also helps with nerve signaling, which makes the muscle actually work. Interesting fact is that there are foods that can help you with vitamin D, such as egg yolks, fatty fish, like salmon, sardine, mackerel, even tuna, milk. All of those will contain some vitamin D, although there's no doubt that the amounts that you get from food are very, very low. It's not enough. Then you have to have some sun exposure, but even in those places like Florida, where you have a bunch of sun exposures, sometimes that's not enough either. And that's why we do recommend supplementing with adequate doses of vitamin D, which is around 5,000 units, trying to get to somewhere closer between 50 to 90 nanograms per milliliter. We use that for cardiovascular health, but having those levels of vitamin D are really, really powerful for muscle health as well, especially if you want to have strong legs when you reach 94 years old. Any takes on vitamin D, Dr. Brewer?
Yeah, but I'm glad you started with that. And a lot of people who are getting started with this and are trying to connect the dots are not going to think about vitamin D. And again, vitamin D is like, it's sort of like niacin and some of the B vitamins. There are so many core metabolic processes that are going on that really depend on appropriate vitamin D that it's one of our two biggest supplemental focus points. Again, vitamin D and niacin. Then we look at some things like K2 and some of the others. There's a long history in terms of what happened with vitamin D. Let me see if I can do 100 years of history on vitamin D in 30 seconds. You ready to start?
Let's put a timer in the screen, right? Don't worry, Aspen. Okay. This is improvised. Just go ahead. I'll put a timer on my end.
Okay, so vitamin D was first discovered as something that avoided a thing called rickets, or prevented a thing called rickets, where your legs just formed sabers, and it was like, oh my gosh, it was devastating for people, for their ability to just move in their life. So in the beginning, it was all about that. But then it became clearer and clearer, starting 25 years ago, that it's much more than just avoiding rickets. You can avoid rickets at levels of 20 to 40 in your serum, but we're not talking about that anymore. We're talking about all of those core metabolic processes, which again are still in major debate. We covered vitamin D just a month ago, and a fellow YouTube creator, a lot of people love to criticize him, but sometimes you really need to look a little bit deeper at some of the stuff he's looked at. Eric Berg had a great doc on talking about vitamin D, one of the foremost vitamin D researchers in the world. And he's one of the guys that has really helped many of us, and many of the standards committees start to look at, yep, we probably need to have higher levels than just 20 to 40. Maybe it's more like 50 to 90. And that's what we recommend. And that's where we start with some of this supplementation here. How did I do? How many seconds was that?
Oh man, it took you about 2 minutes, basically.
So no wonder I'm such a windbag.
Well, but you explain, and you how do you say that, professed your love to Dr. Berg?
Oh, I don't agree with everything Dr. Berg says either, but that wasn't the point.
Yeah, but we cover that, and we have a lot of kind of a little bit of backlash because of that. We don't agree on everything. We do agree most people need to supplement with vitamin D. That's the point, but just gotta be careful and not think that you can take a bunch of units of vitamin D or basically any supplements and expect nothing's going to happen. Some supplements are way safer than others, and we do think that you don't need to take more vitamin D than what you actually need, right?
Very
So,
good addition. Thank you.
all right, let's vitamin B, but specifically vitamin B complex that has these 4 vitamins: vitamin B1, which is thiamine; vitamin B6, which is pyridoxine; vitamin B12, which is cobalamin; and vitamin B9, which is folate. So each and every one of those vitamins serves a specific purpose for stronger legs. Vitamin B1 will help for the mitochondria be able to oxidize glucose and other sources of energy, and helps with creating enough energy. That's why it's better taken in the morning, early morning. Vitamin B6, pyridoxine, it's involved in amino acid metabolism and helps with nerve function, and also helps breaking down glycogen, which is the way that you store glucose in your liver and as well within your own muscles. Vitamin B12 is needed for myelin formation. Myelin is a small cover for the nerves to work properly. And folate, which is essential for methylation and homocysteine reduction, reducing oxidative stress and improving vascular health, blood flow, and muscle oxygenation. You can get a bunch of vitamin B from pork, legumes, seeds, poultry, avocados, meat, eggs, dairy, and a lot of folate from some leafy green vegetables like spinach, kale, and legumes, and my favorite, uh, animal food, liver. You can get a bunch of that as well in there. We do recommend supplementing with vitamin B, and especially for those people who are dealing with something called poor methylation, which is a specific issue where you're not able to manage a specific amino acid that can be inflammatory, homocysteine. Methylated B complex is such a good way to start. Just be careful if you have acne, because vitamin B12 can cause acne outbreaks if you're dealing with that in some people. So any additional thoughts on vitamin B, Dr. Brewer?
No, well, one of the things to realize for those of us who generalize, and I'm a generalizer as opposed to, well, you could argue whether I detail or generalize. The bottom line is the vitamin B complex vitamins like niacin, thiamine, all of those have a core that is used very deeply in the mitochondria. And once you realize that these are core to mitochondrial function, then you begin to realize that they're core to everything we do in terms of life. It's niacin, for example, is one of the things that I mentioned before that we look at all the time.
And a lot of people are having issues with vitamin B. As you know, you and I are more like omnivores and doing low carb diet.
Mm-hmm.
Some people who rather do more like a plant-based or vegan diet will have issues with vitamin B. So that's something to take a look at and be careful with. All right. So let's go with the next one, vitamin K2, one of your faves. So vitamin K2, although most people will realize and say, okay, I know about vitamin K because I know it pulls calcium out of the arteries and puts it into the bone. And Dr. Brewer and I think we are probably the few people, or maybe the only people on YouTube that discusses the benefits of vitamin K2 for insulin resistance. In regards to strong legs, it's not just about muscle. It has to do also with bone quality. So vitamin K2, even if you can argue that it pulls calcium out of the arteries or not, it is true that it can help put calcium into the bones. And it's fantastic for that, specifically for people who are dealing with osteoporosis. So some sources of vitamin K2, you will find it in natto. You will find it in hard cheeses, egg yolks, grass-fed butter, and liver as well. And here's the thing. There are specifics for each and every one of those subtypes of vitamin K2. So there's vitamin K2 MK4 and vitamin K2 MK7. And the one that has seen to improve a little bit more on regards to calcium into the bones is vitamin MK4. And MK4 is the one that there is a product, I believe it's from Life Extension. That's the only one that I have seen that has 45 milligrams of vitamin K4, which is kind of the mega dose. Although we do recommend doses from 400 micrograms for either MK7 or a combination of both for arterial health. But in regards to osteoporosis, people with osteoporosis, seems like K4 is actually well tolerated. Do you have any specific additional comments on vitamin K2, Dr. Brewer?
Yeah, as you and I discussed, you're still having some technical difficulties in terms of your connection. Right there at the end, I think you were talking about people that have osteopenia, osteoporosis. So as Jesus said, yes, there's an interesting, deeper metabolic and biological connection between insulin resistance and control of calcium in the tissues. So vitamin K2 is very much associated with that. And so are the enzymes, osteocalcin and matrix GLA protein, that help control these processes and help with your health. As Jesus mentioned, unlike niacin or vitamin D, there is no upper limit associated with significant risk for vitamin K2. So whereas you see K2 dosages around, 100 micrograms in a lot of pills, supplements, on the other hand, you can see 150 times that amount in mega K2. And that actually, those larger doses have been demonstrated to help with osteoporosis and osteopenia.
Fantastic. And I think now I know what the problem is. We'll discuss later in regards to that connection. I know exactly what's going on now. But let's go back to the items. Let's go to the next vitamin. This one is vitamin E, which is one vitamin of which we don't talk that much, but it's critical for muscle strength. So vitamin E, especially the type alpha tocopherol, it protects the cell membranes from oxidative stress, from inflammation, including muscle and nerve tissue. It helps maintain mitochondria integrity under high energy demand, especially when you're exercising, and might help avoid sarcopenia. That's the loss of muscle that muscle loss as you age, and the one associated with also with inflammation. It can improve endurance and fatigue and help you recover faster from intense exercise. You can get it from almonds, some seeds, hazelnuts, spinach, Swiss chard, avocados, and the supplementing doses, even though you could measure that on bloodstream, it's not as easy and as trustworthy to do that. Usually supplementing with 100 to 200 international units a day, it's more than enough if you're looking forward to that and if you're not getting enough from your diet. Do you have any input on regards to vitamin E? We don't talk that much about this one.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. And here's a couple of the key reasons why we don't. Number one, you can get too much vitamin E. It can cause problems, toxicity. And number two, you can get it fairly easily in your diet and in basic multivitamins. So on a practical basis, you tend to not see a lot of deficiency-related issues with it. So that's why we don't talk about it a lot.
Exactly. And the point is just try to consider that some of those food sources are very low carb friendly. And if you're not eating those, you might want to take a look at that. If you are struggling to build muscle and you're doing a bunch of exercise, this might be one of those vitamins that you're not taking into consideration. We use an app called Chronometer or Chronometer. You can have it either on your phone or on the website. And you can just log in all the foods that you're eating, and it will give you an approximate on which nutrients are you missing, are you deficient in. So yeah, consider that. Next one is vitamin C, which I don't know what happened in here. Well, some issues with the slides. I'm gonna take them out. But vitamin C is the next one. And vitamin C is essential for collagen. It helps with tendons, ligaments, fascia, and muscle. And it's a potent antioxidant as well, which is why a lot of people, including certain doctors, will use them in their own protocols, even for cancer and infections and all that stuff. Of course, you know that you can get it from citrus fruits. We prefer strawberries, kiwi, bell peppers, and broccoli. You got to be careful when cooking, because cooking can mess up the amount of vitamin C that you can get from these sources. And if you're thinking about supplementing, you should not go above 1 gram a day. It's usually 250 to 500 milligrams a day. That's more than enough. Just consider that supplementing with vitamin C will mess up the readings. Any thoughts on vitamin C?
Yeah, you faded out. Your connection went out again when you're talking about vitamin there at the end. So there's a thing called the Pauling protocol. It's named after Linus Pauling. He's one of the few guys that have won not one but 2 Nobel Prizes. For a long time, he may still be the only one that's won 2 Nobel Prizes in medicine. So he's a smart guy. But he said, he thought we could prevent all cardiovascular disease with just giving super high doses of vitamin C, 1 gram or more. I've seen people taking 5 and 6 grams of vitamin C per day. When you go into the theory of it, it goes way back. I'm a history nut. Jesus, like most young people, not so interested in history. This is the reason that that British sailors were called limeys. They noticed that they got a disease called scurvy, where their gums bled. At the end of the day, it was a connective tissue disease. Jesus mentioned collagen. That's what this is all about. Collagen is the core connective tissue for the human body. And some physician in Britain, I think, discovered that vitamin C would prevent all of this. They also discovered then that, there's a short putt after that to figure out, if you carry limes on these boats, these guys are getting a recurring source of vitamin C. So the sailors no longer got scurvy on these prolonged sailing trips. So there's the history thing. Now let's go back to the Pauling treatment, the Pauling prevention program. Bottom line is, it sounds great, but it really doesn't work in terms of the evidence. I don't mind patients coming to us with it. I don't preach to them to not do it. Like most things, I'll say, look, you're Luke Skywalker. This is your life. This is your battle for security for yourself and your family. But I'm Yoda, and we've been in a bunch of those battles, and we'll help you with it to the extent that we can. We just had a patient last week that came in he wasn't taking one of the really high doses. He wasn't taking 7 or 8 grams. He was taking 1.5 grams per day, though. He had not. The biggest significance for us technically is something that you brought up, but your connection failed on us for a second. These doses, especially 1 gram or higher, can mess with one of the most important things from our perspective, and that is your blood sugar management. Whether it's getting blood sugar at a reference lab like Quest, or whether it's just a finger stick or a CGM, continuous glucose monitor. So those of you who are still big Linus Pauling believers, like many other folks, there's some stuff I would agree with Pauling, but I will say I just haven't seen the evidence pan out. Just do, like we advised that patient last week, continue to do it if you wish. It's not going to hurt you, except be aware when you're trying to measure your glucose that it'll mess with that measurement.
And there's an interesting thing about vitamin C in regards to dosing. You know that if you go above 2 grams a day, it can cause some diarrhea, gas.
Yeah.
But for those who are prone to oxalates, it can also increase the risk of kidney stones. So
Oxalate.
because excess
That's right.
vitamin C can be metabolized in the liver into oxalates.
Yeah.
So that's why we mentioned to be careful. Not saying that everybody is gonna have that issue. That's the same conversation about oxalates we have mentioned in the past, where we believe that oxalates can be a problem for some people, not for everyone. But if you are dealing with that and you're avoiding oxalates, a lot of vitamin C can be a problem. So, and somebody's asking something really interesting. I want to point that out before we go to the last vitamin. Uh, if we will be discussing when to take these vitamins in regards to exercise, how long before or after, and if there are interactions and absorption issues, we'll talk about that a little bit later. So, vitamin A, it helps regulate the expression of genes involved in muscle cell differentiation and mitochondrial buildup. So it helps creating new muscle cells and creates new mitochondria, as well as other cells that will work in supporting the muscle structure. You can find a lot of vitamin E, of course, in carrots, which just a point of my limited but interesting experience. I don't get the same effect from eating carrots from when I just eat them raw versus when I eat them cooked. If I cook the carrots and mess up with the fiber, uh, that just messes up my glucose. So if I'm eating carrots, I just eat them raw. Liver, egg yolks, butter, all of those are great sources for that, as well as kale. And if you're thinking about supplementing, which is not necessary for most people, you can get like 700 micrograms. That's the daily recommendation. Just be careful not to go over 5,000 international units. Like it's actually weird or rare that you are going to need to supplement with vitamin A. So those are kind of the takes on the overall vitamins. Do you have any additional information on vitamin A?
No, again, other than just the comment that you brought up, it's one of the reasons that we don't talk a lot about vitamin A. We don't want to create too much attention around it because, again, you can cause some challenges with it. And like vitamin E, very few people really have significant problems with deficiencies. That's not a major driver of problems in aging. Not like niacin, not like vitamin D, not like K2, and not like the lifestyle issues, which are the biggest issue.
Exactly right. So before we go to the Q&A and discuss some of those interesting questions that we're getting from the audience, let me bring your attention to this. So you know that we now are promoting a new line of supplements from Dr. Brewer. You will not see vitamin E. You will not see vitamin A. I'm not sure you're going to see vitamin C either. But the ones we do have, we have omega-3s. We have vitamin D, which is one of the only sources where you have both vitamin D and vitamin K2 at the dose that Dr. Brewer recommends, which is 400 micrograms. Most presentations we have like 90 to 100 micrograms, which is usually not enough for what you're looking for in regards to health. We also have magnesium glycinate and magnesium threonate, as well as creatine, which we didn't discuss creatine in this video because it's not necessarily a vitamin, but we have a full video about it that we just posted almost 2 weeks ago. If you want to go and take a look at that one. So if you're looking forward to get a reliable source for these supplements that I just discussed, take a look at the website. We're going to have that on the chat as well on the description of the video and on a pinned comment if you want to take a look at those. If you need some sources that are approved and reviewed by Dr. Brewer himself. So Dr. Brewer, do you want to add something on this?
No. Well, I always say no, and then I always make a comment.
And then you end up, yeah.
Well, oh well. There's a lot of attention. A lot of people have a lot of interest in supplements. And yes, supplements matter. I remember back up until what, 15 years ago, I was one of those standard issue docs who said, in reality, supplements are just expensive urine. Well, that just demonstrated my own ignorance. And, like Ken Berry, some other guys, Robert Lufkin, have written whole books about apologizing for lies that they've talked about. And I'll apologize for that lie too. Supplements are more than just expensive urine. Supplements do matter. However, there's some reality in what your typical doctor's focusing on when he or she says that. And the reality is supplements are not as important as lifestyle. Your typical doctor gets focused, unfortunately, on medications too much. At the end of the day, it's lifestyle, and then medications, then supplements, some other things. You really have to know what's the appropriate countermeasure for the appropriate problem, especially as we start getting beyond our 40s and 50s. Our body starts needing a little bit of help, even if we're doing the right lifestyle stuff. But don't ignore lifestyle and try to do the easy button and say, I'm going to supplement my way out of this. You can't do it.
Exactly right. And also, there's a lot of conversation about, can you trust your supplements? And we know for a fact that the person who is helping developing these supplements for us, they are all of them done on the US. So they're US based, and they are verified by the highest quality standards that are out there in regards to supplements. We don't want to become the supplement selling channel, because that's not the purpose. And that's why Dr. Brewer is talking about lifestyle first. But we know that there is a need for getting the right supplements, and we're just bringing that out. So enough for advertisement. Aspen, do you have the water bowl so we can go to the... Awesome. And I want to give right there. I want to give a shout out to Ramesh Victor, who just became a member. YouTube changed its settings, and I don't know if we have a banner for that, but if you go to the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, an icon with a plus sign is going to appear. You just click in there, and you can become a member. I think that's going to be an old banner. There's no join button as far as I know so far. Just click somewhere near to the subscribe button. You can support the channel, and you're going to get additional content from Dr. Brewer, answering specific questions that you put on any of their videos if you're a premium member, and if you will get your question answered. And if you're a regular viewer, you have access to those exclusive videos. But especially, we'll answer your questions first during the live show. I was discussing something about that, Dr. Brewer, like creating a monthly video for members only, where we answer the highest amount of questions that we can. So we're going to be working on that. I'm just pitching that to Dr. Brewer. He didn't hear about it until this moment.
Pardon me, I was on mute. Jesus has done a good job of watching out for members and continues to do that. I appreciate that, Jesus. And the members do too.
Oh, yeah.
I'm on a regular basis recording some, questions that come up from members.
Yes, and it's not like we love everyone who's watching the show. We appreciate you. You're subscribing. It makes it a long way. It's really important. But we had a phenomenon where we have a bunch of people who were paying a little bit extra without us asking for anything, and we just wanted to retribute somehow, doing a little extra effort for you guys who already went and did that. So thank you so much. And can you put the other banner, Aspen? There's one more thing that I want to talk about. We have a specific clinical team trained by Dr. Brewer, and we have a special offer that if you call 859-300-0395, you can get a free consultation to talk about your needs and see what we can do for you. So if you want to get closer to Dr. Brewer's team and get some of your specific questions answered, you have a chance to get a free consultation. This is a special limited offer, so go ahead and call 859-300-0395. We'll be happy to hear from you. All right, enough let's go with our beloved members. Kit Lawson, good morning from Hood, Arizona. And I just want to acknowledge JMK. JMK is always here, even if it's not a member. It's probably one of the most loyal viewers, and we appreciate that. She or he has been very patient with us. Let's answer her question. Is it true that GLP-1 therapy will rob patients of significant muscle mass over time?
You're asking me?
I'm asking you.
It's a great question, as JMK often puts out there. And I thought we used to have a picture, a face picture of JMK, and I thought he was a male, but maybe my memory's wrong. Anyway, the bottom line is, anytime you lose 35, 40 pounds, you're going to get major loss of muscle in your hips, your thighs, your calves. And if you want to get a visceral, physical acknowledgement of that, get a 40-pound weight vest, wear it all day, and then take it off. And then you'll realize, oh my gosh, what an impact that has on leg muscles. So that's one of the things to acknowledge. And yes, if I sound like I'm a denier of muscle loss with Ozempic and those things, I'm not. I'm familiar with the evidence. One of the things that I'm skeptical, though, again, as you can see, is the fact that it really hasn't been teased out how much of this weight, you clearly get weight loss with the GLP-1s. How much of the muscle loss is associated with the weight loss, and how much of it is associated with the medication itself? Because the GLP-1s have become so popular, and they've become so popular because they are effective. Because they've become so popular, now everybody wants to jump on the bandwagon and show warning signs these things are going to kill you. Just like any other prescription medication, there are dangers with them. But, we use a lot of them. We're very clear on the risk-benefit equation for these things versus the diabetes that they treat, and these medications versus the obesity that they treat. And so that's why we use a lot of them, because the diabetes and the obesity are multiple times more dangerous than the GLP-1s.
For sure. And you have shared your story, right? Where you did some fasting, and you lost some muscle. You exercised a lot. I can attest for that. I have been on trips with Dr. Brewer. He exercises a lot. And you gain back some of that muscle loss during the fasting, and you are using Mounjaro, and that also improved your sleep, and you don't have significant muscle loss. Your latest DEXA scan came out really good. So lifestyle will never be replaced by any drug. That being said, have you seen the latest video from Mike Israeli?
I have not. Mike Israel?
Yeah, Israel. Sorry. I'll send you the link. He is highlighting two drugs that are on the latest stages of being tested, which are supposed to break the threshold for which muscle is able to grow. So this might come to replace some of those anabolic steroids.
I've heard about those. Yeah, very, very interesting.
Bimagrumab and Trebomgrumab. So there are monoclonal antibodies that will work with that, specific, like, new generation drugs. I bet that they will make things easier if they're safe enough. But again, I don't think they will ever replace the lifestyle you need to do. You got to do the work if you want to keep your muscles.
Just a comment about overall medicine and the brave new world. There are a couple of there's an overall type of medication that's just changed the face of medicine. It's called biologicals. And biologicals are actual prototypes or models of things that our body uses. These are not incredibly new. The original ones were thyroid hormone. And it's with the biologicals that usually the generics don't work. But more recently, the big areas in biologicals are the GLP-1s, and which are you may have heard the term. What do you call the group? There's a group of amino acids. It's a generic term. I'll think of it later. Having a senior moment. The other groups of biologicals are antibodies, and these last two, anything that ends with AB is usually an antibody type of biological.
Great. All right. So just saying hi to our members: Keith Lawson, TCAT DSR, and Rick Folia. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. I know I messed up last week, and we didn't post this last Saturday. We had some editing issues. We wanted to get the best video for you. So it's been a while. We missed you. Wakas Qureshi, how to get prescription for metformin without having full-blown diabetes in Canada or USA. Specifically in Canada, pre-diabetes is when your A1C goes to 5.9. I thought they moved that to 5.5, didn't they? Did you hear about it? Or did they move that from 5.5 to 5.9?
Well, when he's referring to that in Canada, Canada is more of a nationalized medicine, much more government control. I've got family members living in Canada, and from my perspective, because of my work in public health, I'm not afraid of nationalized medicine. In fact, it can bring some significant advantages, but it brings problems too. And one of them is you get maybe a little bit too much bureaucratic control. We have patients in Canada, so one of the ways to get over some of the controls there are the ones like you're talking about. There may be an interest there saying, yeah, I'm familiar with the evidence around metformin. Some people are, especially the trend these days is to say, oh no, it's bad for you because it poisons your mitochondria. There's still a good case, as we've demonstrated on previous videos, that's a little bit stretched. That's a little bit overblown in terms of that concept. And there's still a concept for those who want to say, look, I'm in my 50s. I've got an A1C of 5.5. I am worried about prediabetes. 5.5 usually, unless you've got genetics like Jesus and some other folks, which he has shared. 5.5, you really do need to be thinking about, I've got some potential for metabolic disease here. And if you're living in a place like Canada where you have maybe too much difficulty accessing a simple, easy, inexpensive solution like metformin, you may want to, again, we've got plenty of people doing that with us, where they'll call us. You can get it in the U.S. A lot of people in Canada live very close to the U.S. lines.
Yeah. And the other part is testing. Like if you're relying on A1C, we have seen that time again. With our patients, we'll recommend an OGTT. Then you get the diagnosis of diabetes and you get the prescription. And that's mostly for insurance to pay for it, because you are not afraid to go ahead and prescribe metformin for somebody with insulin resistance or prediabetes within the US. So it's just a matter of finding the right person that will help you with your problem. And some of the people in Canada that look at Europe, they will have maybe a PCP nearby that will work with them and allow them to get some of those prescriptions as well. So that also is like a personal issue.
Couple of comments.
Sure.
Number one, it's a fad to say I'm going to get demonetized for this or banned for this. I might get demonetized or banned for talking about how to avoid controls in Canada, but so be it. The other thing, peptides. You remember I was talking about?
Oh yeah, okay. You were talking about peptides. Yeah.
Biologicals. Some of the two big categories in biologicals right now are the antibodies, anything ending with A, B, and then the peptides. The peptides are a group of things that are just like a protein, which is the body uses to solve all kinds of problems. And guess what? The GLP-1s are actually peptides. They're an analog of a hormone called GLP-1. That's why they're called GLP-1s.
Right. Rick Polia with some feedback. It would be helpful if this chart tells us how to test for levels vitamin D and vitamin 2. We can do a show where we add some of that. Actually, from all the ones we just mentioned, probably the only one that's more reliable to measure will be vitamin D. We measure vitamin D 25 hydroxy, which is the inactive form, but it's the one that clinically has shown to correlate with some of these issues. For vitamin B, you can measure vitamin B overall, and you can even have a panel, but it's not as exact as accurate. We do sometimes consider measuring a byproduct called methylmalonic acid, which can be a reflection. Whenever that's high, it's a reflection that you are lacking vitamin B. So, but those are the two. Vitamin E, vitamin A, vitamin K2 is not really practical or available to measure that. Vitamin K, how much MK4 and how much MK7? So MK4 is the one that you can go up to 45 milligrams, 45 milligrams, and MK7 is the one, either MK4, MK7, a combination of both. 400 micrograms is more than enough for arterial health. AI brackets or AL brackets, those for methylated B complex, especially if you get a lot from the food sources listed. So the problem with measuring the specific doses of vitamin B complex is that all of those will have a specific thresholds for each one of those vitamins. But what we have seen is that most supplements, especially the ones that are methylated complex, will have a bunch of it, and you'll even see like it has like 1600% of the daily allowance. Vitamin B complex is one of those that either if you don't have acne issues, it's usually pretty much safe, and those doses are not such a big issue. And if you're dealing with methylation, that's usually more than enough. You can get methylmalonic acid to really know if you're really lacking on vitamin B, but if your homocysteine is high, that's one alternative, the methylated B complex or even betaine or TMG, and we're working on getting those into our supplement list as well for you guys. PTN JB, I keep methylated B complex recommended by Brewer in the refrigerator, keeps it fresh. Yes, we were working with, we're still working with Full Scripts, and they have an option for methylated B complex. So yeah, you can do that. What's the special about MK2 versus MK2 and MK1? I haven't seen significant information on MK1 or MK2 to really. I don't even know if it's a supplement out there that's going to be really useful. The ones that have been studied are MK4 and MK7. Do you have any thoughts on MK1, MK2, Dr. Brewer?
No, I'm the same place you are. Basically, is when they discovered K2, they noticed that there's a lot of structural similarities with K1. There's still some significant debate over whether K2 actually has any impact on things like the vitamin K dependent blood thinners. It may, but at the end of the day, these have all been discovered. They've been classified in the lab. The ones that there's clearly a known impact are MK4 and MK7. The other ones just not so much yet.
Correct. Thomas Handeside, any opinion on L-Reuteri yogurt as recommended by Dr. Davis? Almost sounds like snake oil, but I'm trying it to see if it can help with sleep and poor skin quality. I've heard of it, but I'm not that familiar with that specific one. RG?
Yes, I have heard of it. I have gone a little bit deeper than I do on a lot of the newer things. And right now I'm thinking it's going to turn out to be more than snake oil. I am actually using it myself. I have both L-Reuteri supplements as well as a family member who is making yogurt for the family using L-Reuteri.
Interesting. Well, as long as it doesn't turn out to be like the C15 issue where paying hundreds of dollars for something you can get on butter or pecorino cheese.
As you know, that's the big issue in the whole, one of many big issues in the whole supplement world. The C15 that Jesus was mentioning is a fat that's got it's got a good story behind it. It's likely to be generating more evidence that's clear that it's helpful, but people find out about it and then they turn it into a supplement and sell it in pills in a bottle and charge $100 for it, when you could just go to the grocery store and get what's the name of that cheese? Pecorino.
Wasn't it Pecorino? Yeah.
Pecorino, sheep's cheese, and other cheeses as well. So the soft cheeses like sour, what do you call it? Cream cheese, for example. A lot of the soft cheeses, you can get C15. So don't pay $100 a month for your supplement. Just get it out of your refrigerator at the grocery store.
Fantastic. Rick Folia actually mentioned he tried it and found no difference. So again, it's a personal issue. We had a patient that was dealing with probably what we thought it was SIBO, like excessive overgrowth of bacteria in intestines, and she had to quit using fermented foods to stop the bloating and all the issues on her gut.
And to that point, I will say, I think with the story with L-reuteri, the story as you bring up with fermented foods, all of those, I think those are things where you may or may not notice a difference within a few weeks, and you may or may not notice a difference, period. But some of the things that go on with the gut are subtle enough to where you may not see symptoms.
Right. So this is an interesting question. Do you think that the Life Extension Super K is too high in K1, 1,500 micrograms K2, and 1,000 micrograms K1? And what is this, like 4,000 micrograms of K2?
So clearly, if somebody is taking a vitamin K antagonist, vitamin K related blood thinner like warfarin or Coumadin or one of those, you clearly should not be on any kind of K1. It's questionable whether you should be taking K2. I don't think in most cases it's an issue, but the bottom line is that's where the clear demarcation is. Don't take anything with K1 in it if you're on one of those blood thinners. The rest of the stuff is kind of foggy, not so clear in terms of evidence.
Yep. And let's answer this question last, but very important. Would you be discussing when to take these vitamins relative to exercise, before and after, and how long before or after? Also, any interactions of absorptions we take in certain combinations. So as far as I know, there's no issues with all of these supplements, like with each other. They're pretty much safe. Actually, some of those are, you will want to have them similar timelines, like vitamin D and K2. They will support each other. Hey, we're getting ready for the weather forecast right there.
Oh, it popped up again.
Anyhow, let me go ahead and continue before you start with the weather. The vitamin A, D, E, and K2 are fat soluble, so you want to eat them with a fatty meal. Vitamin C, vitamin B are more water soluble, so not such a big issue. The only one that has to be careful, well, there are two that you gotta be careful in regards to exercise. Vitamin B complex, you might want to take that like 1 or 2 hours before your exercise routine, getting extra energy in there. And the other one, vitamin C, you want to use it away from intense exercise, just because vitamin C can mess up a little bit of the insulin signaling that might have something to do with the exercise and gathering some of that glycogen while you're exercising. But other than that, you can take it like in the morning, a few hours, or maybe a couple of hours before exercising if you're not doing that much exercise. You can get it with, some people do like a pre-training meal, so you can take the vitamin C with that as well. All right, so that's the show. Dr. Brewer, any closing remarks before we go? You are on mute.
How did that happen? So
I don't know.
as we often agree, you and I disagree sometimes too. None of us agree with everybody on everything. But regarding when to take it, yeah, for most of these, there's not a concern about when to take it. We have talked about citrulline in the past. We had Dr. Lou Ignaro, Dr. No on, and yeah, there's a little bit more of a thing of taking citrulline before you do your workout. But these things, the things that we talked about today, the vitamins, I'm not aware of any significant time of the day related focus. Citrulline's a big thing to support muscle activity. Creatine is, again, as Jesus said before, we didn't cover those today because those aren't really vitamins. They're amino acids.
All right. So if you haven't seen the latest video on creatine, just go ahead and click on it when it appears. And we'll be looking forward to see you on Saturday. We're going to be talking about a topic we haven't discussed in a while, statins, the awful statins. So this is going to be interesting. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. See you next week.